So I got a notification yesterday from one of the carriers that they had surveillance on a client. He was riding his motorcycle.
Okay.
He's got a back injury.
Right.
So
That seems to be pretty common lately. People riding motorcycles, and caught on video surveillance. But
right.
Look, the carrier is allowed to do surveillance. Of course, there are privacy limitations that have to be considered. But for the most part, they are allowed to follow you and see what you're doing. And the problem is when someone is portrayed in a video doing things that are inconsistent with their claim for disability. In other words, if you have somebody who says, I can only lift my shoulder this high, otherwise I'm in total pain, and they have video surveillance of them swinging the golf club like Tiger Woods or John Daly, or someone who says, for example, that they have terrible knee problems and they have to extend their leg all the time when they're sitting down, and they can't climb ladders, and they can't climb stairs, and they have video surveillance of them skiing. Those are pretty extreme examples, but
Right.
They do happen. Now, with the example of someone riding a motorcycle, well, some people will argue with you that it's actually therapeutic and it's good for their back. I think you're going to have a hard time convincing most judges at the Workers' Compensation Board that that's the case.
Right,
So,
right.
My advice to people is assume that you're under surveillance, number one, and don't do anything outlandish. Look,
I agree.
you got to live your life, right? But as
Absolutely.
I tell people, there's a big difference between you wheeling your garbage pail down to the curb and carrying a bathtub down to the curb,
Right.
There's a big difference between you carrying a little shopping bag out of Target and, wheeling sheetrock out of Home Depot,
Right, right.
And, quite frankly, if you can do these extraordinary things, you probably shouldn't be on disability,
Right.
You should be working. But, a lot of it is just common sense.
Common sense. And
Yeah.
some days you do feel better than others, but I tell people just be cautious and, try and, like you said, you have to live your life, but you also have to be cognizant of what you're doing and not doing, and that's not consistent with an injury.
Right.